In May of 2015, China issued multiple warnings to a U.S. surveillance plane. They asserted that the U.S. had flown over their artificial islands in the South China Sea unprovoked. In response, the U.S. defended their reconnaissance flight in light of China's aggressive claims over the disputed area. So what's going on? Why is the South China Sea so important? Well, for starters, the South China Sea is one of the most highly disputed regions in the world. The roughly 1.5 million square mile zone is bordered by China, Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Taiwan, and Vietnam. All have overlapping claims over different parts of the region. Most significantly, China has asserted its sovereignty over nearly the entire South China Sea, violating the exclusive economic zones of every bordering country. Most of those countries also have competing claims over a number of nearby islands, primarily the Paracel and Spratly Islands. So why are all these countries fighting over this region? Well, for starters, the South China Sea is the second most used sea lane in the world and hosts a third of all overseas shipping. It also represents a third of the world's marine biodiversity, meaning that fishing rights are heavily disputed as well. But perhaps most importantly, beneath the sea of water is a massive sea of oil and natural gas. Some estimates have suggested that there are about 28 billion barrels worth of oil under the seabed, along with around 266 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. So who really owns the area? Well, China claims that they've owned the Paracel and Spratly Islands, including the surrounding waters, since the 3rd century. Archaeological finds from the 5th century support this claim. However, Vietnam says that they officially documented their rights to the islands back in the 17th century. This is well before China legally staked its claim in the 19th century. The Philippines, on the other hand, claim dominion based on proximity, as the Spratly Islands are closest to them. Meanwhile, Malaysia and Brunei have used the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea to say that their exclusive economic zones give them rights to parts of the South China Sea. This dispute has led to a number of island invasions and battles, mostly between China and Vietnam. In the 70s and 80s, China twice fought Vietnam over the islands and killed more than 100 soldiers and sailors in total. Then, in 2012, China created an administrative body in the Paracel Islands in spite of Vietnam and the Philippines. 2 years later, they began drilling for oil in Vietnam's disputed area. China's aggressive actions have created a strong sense of conflict between the Southeast Asian countries, and even with U.S. diplomatic intervention, it doesn't seem as though China is willing to back down. There's a ship patrolling in the South China Sea that's been active since World War II, protecting Philippine waters from the Chinese reach. To learn more about this fascinating vessel, check out Seeker's video right here.
Today we're asking the 5 W's about this. A dilapidated World War II ship, which is actually still active and currently camped out in the middle of the ocean.
Thanks for watching TestTube. Don't forget to subscribe.